So now it is that your girl's recording. Let's go ahead. Let's jump into this next damn reaction, shall we? Now, Blackie Speaks. I am so glad to see that you are posting up videos again, gang. There's a little conspiracy going on about you that you wasn't out here in these streets no more, but I'm glad that you're here. So let's talk about this with Ice Spice. Ice Spice, the fall off. And Ice Spice has been in some very interesting controversy. I mean, the controversy kind of started from when it is that she first started to get to heights. But now these are things it is that we cannot ignore anymore. So without further ado, y'all, let's get into this next video, y'all. Let's do it.
They're marketing her like this for a very specific reason. Her body is more popular than her music. I just don't understand how people don't see it.
Best new hip-hop artist, Ice Spice!
How long can they keep on shoving her down our throats?
I ain't gonna lie to you, the best part of when she performs is the twerk.
It seems like people are waking up and it looks like the fall off is approaching.
Dang.
Now, Ice Spice, a name most people recognize. She's one of the most well-known young female rappers in the industry. Blew up over 2 years ago with the song Munch, which ended up catching a lot of people's attention during that time. A lot of that attention came in terms of love, hate, intrigue, and everything in between. That aside, one thing's for sure, she managed to capitalize on that wave and eventually kept on rising and rising. It seems like that rise has came to an end, however. Ice Spice's recent album sales being a sign of that. Isis Gaston, professionally known as Ice Spice, is a 24-year-old rapper born on January 1st, 2000 out of the Bronx, New York. She attended Sacred Heart High School in Yonkers, and after graduating in 2018, enrolled at the State University of New York at Purchase, where she studied communications and at the same time, balanced playing volleyball. Ice Spice started making music while in college and stated that she always had a passion for it, and that's how she dabbled in it. Despite the time she spent making a lot of progress playing volleyball, along with her studies, she eventually made the decision to drop out around her sophomore year. That led to her shouldering the responsibility of being the eldest sister of 5, working a wide range of jobs, including at Wendy's and The Gap. During her studies, she ended up meeting Ephraim Louis Lopez Jr., mostly known as Riot, a well-known producer behind the majority of her records. Ice Spice and Riot built a very close, tight-knit relationship, which later on transitioned into a producer and artist collaboration. A relationship.
He said, look at Nicki Wannabe. She wanted to be her so bad. You know, this is going to be a time to where it is that I actually am going to side with Nicki on this part. Because the fact that Nicki was going to sign this woman, and it didn't happen due to the negotiation issues and stuff that Ice didn't want. One thing it is that I can say, I may not agree with everything it is that Nicki Minaj does, and let alone the Barbs do, but what it is that I can say is that Nicki does recognize talent within female artists, and especially somebody it is that's from New York as well. Both women are from New York. It kind of pains me in a way to where it is that like the New York rappers is probably within the most that I'm seeing that don't get along with each other, depending on which borough it is that they from. But Ice could have learned quite a lot of stuff from Nicki if she had just stayed away from certain things. The thing is that's wrong with Ice is that she's a gossip. She does a little bit of gossiping. She does a little bit of pillow talking and talking to people about with business that you can't necessarily like, and especially when it's legalities and like you got, you know, NDAs and stuff like that. That's the time where it is you really shouldn't be saying anything. But Nicki has to know what she's doing. Nicki absolutely knew what she was doing, but I think it was more so on Ice Spice part. I'm not gonna blame Nicki for this part here. Nicki was really trying to sign her, but she kind of messed up her own bag. And now, ever since then, you had the best friend calling her out for what it is that she was doing. Because she was a certified bully in high school, but the girls still end up being friends with her. She gets caught up in that. Then Cleopatra calling her out. Other people on her team is calling her out of her, just the things it is that she says, she does at this point. It's like, girl, you got to this level of heights, and now it's gonna be you to mess up your own bag. I don't ever want that for anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like when you start making it to heights, normally there's people on the outside that's trying to be hating and stuff like that. But it's a whole different story when it is that your charactership is terrible. And I'm starting to look at Ice Spice with a side eye, a very a chilling side eye at this point for the things it is that I'm hearing. Out of the New York niggas that Drake's co-signed in 2020s, I'm deleting Ice Spice for Yeet Die. That's funny.
That became a key component in her success and blow up. Because not only was Ephraim a very talented and ambitious producer, he also had a lot of prior ties to the music industry, something that Ice Spice benefited from. The ties to the industry he had was through his father, DJ Enough, a DJ and radio personality born in Brooklyn, New York, who's been working at hip-hop radio station Hot 97 since 1998. The encounter with Riot later on led to Ice Spice releasing her debut song, Bully Freestyle, in March 2021. The song gained attention after a video of Ice Spice participating in a challenge called the Bust It Challenge went viral on Twitter. Sometime later after that, she dropped the song Name of Love, which also gained attention, but this time on SoundCloud. On August 10, 2022, Ice Spice released her song Munch, distributed by Worldstar Hip Hop. The song quickly gained traction on social media, and Ice Spice was officially on the trajectory of blowing up, and that's exactly what eventually ended up happening. Ice Spice, in a span of a few weeks, became one of the most talked about new artists, all because of one song, but more specifically, one line from the song.
You thought I was feeling you? That nigga a munch.
Millions of people used the sound bit in their TikTok videos, and she was getting posted all over the blogs. On top of that, her streams were going through the roof, and all around, she was receiving a lot of attention all at once. Even Drake co-signed her by sending her a DM on Instagram, which she posted online as promo for herself. On September 2022, around a month after her initial blow-up, Ice Spice signed a record deal with 10K Projects, which was under a bigger major label, Capitol Records. In the months following, Ice Spice capitalized on her relevancy, as she was now backed up by the industry machine. At this point, she was really starting to take off. The hype on social media had built her up to a level where she had all the attention on her. However, since she climbed so fast in the industry, Ice Spice was still a very much unknown face to the world. Here we had this attractive, racially ambiguous looking light-skinned woman who essentially blew up overnight in the music industry. So she had a big name, but who was the person behind the music? This is when streamer and YouTuber Kai Cenat comes into play, because Ice Spice ended up doing an hour-long stream with Kai Cenat.
In the hook, I said, in the hook, I said, you did me
Oh
dirt.
no! Oh man! Oh man! You ever? It sucks when it is like you know, you have a fallout with a friend, and then you look at like old stuff where it's like, damn, we really not friends no more. To see this now, this wasn't even that long ago. Damn. And Cleo, even though it is like, look, there's some things it is I've side-eyed about you before, but Cleo, I believe you, girl. I believe it is that she's not a real friend. Even from the moment of like the girl from high school that was saying it is that like Ice Spice was bullying her. I believe her too. I believe it too. So it does kind of suck. What's good, monkey?
I do. Like...
That's a bar.
People could suddenly now put a personality to the face, which is an important part of the story, because if people feel like they don't know you, it's going to be very hard for you to pivot. Along with the song Munch climbing, her name being in the spotlight, and people now having a sense of who she was, things were going fairly well for Ice Spice, especially considering the fact that she only had a handful of songs out, Munch being the only one people recognized. Ice Spice, before she went on Kai Cenat's stream, also did a performance at Rollin' Loud, which was heavily in the focal point during her blow-up. You can tell that she wasn't prepared for this moment, and on top of the narrative regarding her being an average rapper becoming stronger, people are now criticizing her stage presence, which is a critical aspect of being an artist. However, for Ice Spice, since she was such a new act who had rose to prominence so quickly, people eventually gave her a break. Later on, Ice Spice dropped 2 singles ahead of her EP. The first one being Bikini Bottom. The song had a somewhat catchy vibe to it. However, the very gimmick that people were drawn to was eventually the same thing that made people lose interest in it. One of the reasons why her breakout song Munch ended up catching virality was because of the line, "You thought I was feeling you." That ninja Munch. She somehow managed to capture that same exact essence on Bikini Bottom. The line, "How can I lose if I'm already chose," became a viral moment along with the song. At this point, she had 3 records out that were catching heat, and while those were still bubbling, she was getting a lot of coverage, specifically within hip-hop media. The biggest impact of the coverage relating to how fast she came up. People were wondering, how did she even come up this fast? That was a good question, because after all, at this point, she was only a few months into her career. Somehow she's been getting all these cosigns from these big superstars out of nowhere, and her face is being plastered all over the place. A few months later, on January 6, 2023, she dropped the final single, In Her Mood, leading up to her EP, Like. The EP had not a lot of songs on it, 6 in total, minus the 3 she had already released. Despite that, the project ended up pushing 15,000 in first week sales, which wasn't bad for an artist who had blown up 5 months prior. It also debuted at number 13 on the
I ain't gonna lie to y'all, chat.
which wasn't bad for an artist who had blown up 5 months prior. It also debuted at
I'ma say it. I'm gonna say it. Now, I know there's a recent timing. Her weight loss, her drastic weight loss has been something that has been buzzing. And of course, with the Ozempic conversation that has been spiraling out of control with her. But I am going to say this. I miss thick Doja. I think her being onto the thicker side suits her. I don't see anything wrong with what she was beforehand, you know? Like a little thick jaw, you know what I'm saying? Like there was nothing wrong with that. Sometimes it is like a little meat on your bones, you know what I'm saying? It does suit you. I feel like with her body shape, it suits her well. But now with her losing all that weight, it's just not, you know? Now with Doja Cat on the opposite side of the spectrum, Doja was fine. Doja fine as hell, thick, fine as hell, small. I mean, Doja still got it. She still has it. The baby girl still got it. She still got it. You know, sometimes it is, and I'm a little bit worrisome when it's drastic weight loss, because I've talked about this before. When you do a weight loss like this and you do not do no compound like lifts, or like you're eating the protein and everything in order to still maintain muscle, and you just drop the weight, that makes it worse of why people think Ozempic. Because look, when you lose weight, a trainer and somebody it is that's studying to go ahead and to do this professionally, well, not professionally, just for like if people need advice and stuff, because I know people ask me about with fitness related things, you have to use compound weights and cardio. So when you drop the weight, you can maintain muscle so you don't lose a lot of your mass. I think for her, with her losing the weight, she lost quite a bit of her features. She lost quite a bit. She looks it's almost like an ill skinny. And I don't ever want to make fun of or disparage anybody it is that's like that, because we've seen Chadwick Boseman, who was somebody that was a little, you know, he had a little bit of like some meat to him. And then when he got sick, people talked about this, right? So I'm never gonna disparage her that way. But the level of weight loss, how it is that she did it, I know for a fact it's not just with gym. It's not a gym body. I'm sorry. It's not a gym weight loss. I can just tell that it's not. It has to be with something else. And just be careful with those things, because they're not always on long term is going to be good for your health, you know?
At number 13 on the top rap albums chart, and at number 37 on the Billboard 200. The next few months after this is when she reached the peak of her career. Ice Spice linked up with UK artist Pink Pantheress for the song Boy's a Liar 2. The song peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, which up until this point was the biggest moment of her career. Now that was until the Barbie soundtrack for the Barbie movie. Ice Spice, along with Nicki Minaj, was featured on the Barbie soundtrack. That was a very big mainstream,
which I'm gonna be honest, it should have won a Grammy. This really should have won a Grammy. Like, listen, y'all can feel indifferent it is that y'all want to about with Nicki, but I even said this, that y'all played in Nicki Minaj's face, saying it is that they won this and then snatching it away. We're like, y'all put it up on the Grammy website to snatch that away. I will agree with Nicki here, and I will agree with the Barbs that she got snubbed. Y'all wholeheartedly played in this woman's face, and I can see to why she crashes out and be upset and everything, because I would too. Like that's really just like, that's the biggest fuck you can ever do to somebody, you know? Y'all can feel indifferent, but Nicki got snubbed on this and it's petty and pathetic. I agree with that.
moment for her, which kept propelling her to the top. Shortly after that, a collaboration with Taylor Swift for the song Karma was announced. The record hit number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, so this was her second top 10 entry within the span of a few months. At this point, Ice Spice had built up a significant amount of leverage in the music industry, and this was less than 1 year into her blow up. She got co-signed by some of the biggest stars in music, performed alongside them, jumped on songs with them, and built up a very big social media platform through the millions of dollars of marketing that was dumped into her brand. But it was at this point that things eventually started to take a turn for the worse. A turn that eventually took her from almost 40 million monthly listeners to 15 in the span of a single year. Ice Spice started teasing a song called Fart, which was supposed to be the single to her next project, Y2K. After the snippet went viral on TikTok and social media, she ended up releasing it on January 2024. The song initially debuted at number 37. However, the week after that, it dropped down to 52, then 93, and after 1 month and 22 days of its release, the song officially left Billboard Hot 100. Ice Spice at this point didn't have any records on the charts. As she continued releasing a few more singles up until the release of her Y2K debut album, Ice Spice hype had clearly died down at this point. Her music just wasn't performing as well, and the novelty factor of her brand was...
See, people acting like we as human beings wouldn't crash out in some way when really, yes, we would. Nicki crashing out or just side-eyeing the Grammys. I mean, we talked about why it is like her that level of like a strained relationship between the people that's in charge of the Grammys and Nicki after, you know, that performance in 2012. But I mean, yeah, at this rate, like we're no stranger to the fact that is that the Grammys cherry pick who it is they want to give these awards to. But they play in Nicki Minaj's face, they play in Beyonce's face, they play in so many different people's face. But this is why it is that I say on this part I can actually, excuse me, I can agree with on the side of Nicki here, and I can agree with the side of the Barbs here, because they played in this woman's face and they shouldn't have never done that.
Was disappearing by the second. And then came her debut studio album, Y2K, the release that was supposed to be the most defining moment of her career. The album came out on July 26, 2024, with a mere length of only 10 songs and 23 minutes. The general public and her fans consider the album not good.
I feel like Ice Spice lacks the capacity and the ability to make a good record. Really, to me on the surface, it reads more like a lack of effort than anything.
The album ended up doing 28,000 in first week sales, a number that would be considered not so bad for any other fairly new artist. However, considering how much the industry was pushing her, the numbers were definitely underwhelming. Let's talk about some key reasons why this album underperformed, but most importantly of all, let's talk about why Ice Spice lost relevancy.
I'm not gonna lie here. This is extremely Nicki coded. This is extremely Nicki coded. The only thing it is that would have made this even more is if this hair had a different color swap. If she had like the bangs, the keeping this color of orange, and she had it black, or if she had the back of the bob orange and had it black, I would have been like, baby, you might as well had go ahead and added Nicki onto this. This is very Nicki coded. What's good, Nev God? How are you? I bet Nicki was just dying laughing seeing this. I mean, to be honest with you, I would too. I would very much too. There a lot of stuff it is that like I be seeing it can come off a little bit as Nicki coded. And it's just like, you know, give the credit when it's due, babe. This is Nicki Minaj right here. Everything about this I looked at, I'm like, this is extremely Nicki coded. Like, damn, who on her team was just like, all right, we're gonna copy the whole blueprint of Nicki. Y'all might as well just go ahead and just give her flowers at this point.
First of all, the album rollout didn't come across as authentic. One of the focal points of marketing this album had nothing to do with the music itself, but it did have everything to do with things outside of it, like her supposed relationship with UK rapper Central C. After coincidentally being spotted together in public around the same time she was ready to drop her album, it appeared as if they were allegedly dating, and they both kept the rumors alive and played into it. Come to find out, it was nothing but a ploy for a collab they were about to drop. The song was titled Did It First, and the entire concept of this particular song was cheating. The release of the song sparked a triangle cheating scandal between Ice Spice, Central C, and another famous social media star whose name is Madeline. She dated Central C in the past, and sometime after the song had dropped, Ice Spice stated that they were strictly friends. This is when we get into the topic of gimmicks. The definition of the word is as follows: something that is not serious or of real value that is used to attract people's attention or interest temporarily, especially to make them buy something. A strategy we've seen a lot of rappers in the game use with the help of the corporations, i.e. the record labels, and it usually ends up in the artist becoming a has-been. The psychology
was literally about to say the wording of gimmick is definitely 6ix9ine. Now, anytime it is that the 6ix9ine, Kanye, anytime it is we start seeing these niggas again, it's just like, oh, they about to drop something.
And while that happens, people simply become more attached to the temporary high of uncovering what the gimmick actually is, rather than getting emotionally invested in the artist. For Ice Spice, her brand has always been very superficial. One of the biggest reasons why she even blew up in the first place was, you guessed it, due to pretty privilege, a social phenomenon which acknowledges the societal advantage a person has by fitting into the beauty standards of their culture. Ice Spice is, after all, a racially ambiguous, attractive woman who's, most importantly of all, light-skinned. Colorism is a huge factor that plays a critical part in the success of any female rapper.
Hey, listen, Flo Milli is gorgeous. A gorgeous dark-skinned queen, bro. Gorgeous. But I have noticed about with Ice Spice, her friends it is that she have around her are dark-skinned women. But I've always kind of questioned too, is she really, do she think that she's bigger than them because of the fact that she has a light skin privilege? I have a problem with this because the same two girls it is that she's had fallen outs with, as the ambulance is passing by me, were dark-skinned women. And I'm looking at her. That's what makes me look at her even more. It's just like, babe, this is no longer just coincidental at this point. Like, you falling out with brown skin, dark skin queens at this point. It's like, I think at this rate, we got to call for what it is, and you're the problem. You feel me? That's all like,
The same thing Cardi B benefited from, being racially ambiguous.
I can't lie. I cannot lie with that with Cardi. That's also another reason why.
Simply makes you appear as more relatable to a bigger demographic of people. She had all those things playing towards her advantage, on top of having the nepotism aspect on her side. Ice Spice had every advantage in the book, which you can't fault her for capitalizing on, but it does explain why the general public views her as an attractive girl who one day decided to pick up a microphone and somehow surpassed the women in the industry who've been working at their craft for decades just to get ignored. The music industry is clearly not about talent. Ice Spice is a representation of that fact. She leveraged her looks in order to put herself in an elevated position, a position that's gonna be hard to maintain for the long haul. The core of what Ice Spice sells is sexuality and promiscuity, something that she knows and all the people backing her up also know. This is not a secret when it comes to her. At every single moment possible, she's either seen twerking or sticking out her tongue in a salacious way, which does constantly feed into her brand. This is what keeps her popular, because as a female rapper in this generation, unless you're selling the idea of sex, it's going to be hard for you to even get your foot in the door.
So the fuck is light skin privilege? Light skin privilege comes from slavery, but I do know it is that it was a predominantly a weaponized thing within like the Haitian culture, because they was idolizing more so fair skin, and then now like of course with the Caribbean islands, that this is, I'm not saying this in Haiti, but this is why this was a problem in Jamaica at one point, why people was bleaching their skin. There's a whole lining of it, like a whole dark history behind that. And of course with the states, within American history, it's always being light skinned is considered being favored. It's always, that came from slavery. That came from like, oh well, you're light skinned, you can almost pass as white, but you're not white, but you can get more benefits than all those other Negroes that's out in the fields picking the cotton and stuff like that. You can actually be in the house. You can actually go ahead and eat with the slave owners, get the good clothes, learn how to read, learn how to write, get all those damn privileges and stuff. So this is now something it is that has been adopted, and now it's been thrown in so many different ways, and even some people as well as dating. You could have a room full of beautiful black queens of all levels of shades, and then you're gonna have some people it's just like, oh, the light skinned one, nah, I need her. I need that one right there. That's the problem. So that's where the light skin privilege come into play.
Part of selling this brand wise is connected to children, specifically little girls. If you pay close attention to the visual aspect of her brand, bright colors like pink speaks to that younger audience, something that's been an integral part of marketing her to that big demographic of young girls. On top of the visual aspect, we also have the personality aspect. Ice Spice appears as a very likable person. That was of course up until the recent story involving her friend Cleopatra, which we'll talk about in just a minute. An aspect a lot of people overlook. Coming across as being likable can get you where you want to go, whether it's attracting the right opportunities for your business, cultivating relationships of all kinds, or having certain unique experiences in life. It's one of the most effective ways to network with others. People like being surrounded by others who exude a sense of warmth and friendliness. This is directly correlated to persuasiveness, which is the quality of making people do what you want or believe in what you believe. On a personality level, Ice Spice does project an easygoing kind of vibe. Whether or not it's real, that's not the point, nor is it relevant. She's managed to convince millions of people all around the world that she is who she supposedly says she is. So on top of what we spoke on, she also has a very strong identity, which is one of the key factors to reaching a high level in any industry. It communicates a very strong message to anyone who's brought into your world, and Ice Spice has created a world for herself. However, considering all the leverage she's built up in the industry throughout her short time in it, it is inevitable to say that Ice Spice has been on a losing streak. Something that's not only affecting how the general public views her, but it's also going to affect the marketing budget her record label allocates to her career. Aside from that, her public persona has also been taking a very strong hit. Of course, I'm gonna talk about this story. I'm sure you might have heard the current viral situation she's found herself in. Ice Spice's former friend and rapper Cleopatra recently came out and exposed Ice Spice for being a mean person behind the scenes. This is the second person who's been close to Ice Spice that's came out exposing her in the recent months.
Yes.
In one of the stories she told, Cleopatra talked about the mistreatment she faced from Ice Spice on tour.
I want my fans to come out like she didn't really try to mesh me in with her actual fan base or try to put her fan base onto me.
Ice Spice ended up responding to her friend by calling her a vacuum because she ate so much food at an Italian restaurant they went to during tour.
You not gonna tell the people how we was at an Italian restaurant and you ate so much fucking
The fact that she's in here listening is crazy.
food, you fucking vacuum, that the server was like, where did the food go?
In other words, Ice Spice was a big fat meanie. According to Cleopatra, she was a fake friend, and she treated her like a second-class citizen, from having her carry her own bags to not being allotted a separate dressing space while they were touring, to Ice Spice team saying that there wasn't a budget in place when her friend asked them to buy her some food.
You want to know what's crazy? Ice Spice was the one who asked Cleo to be on tour with her. And the fact that her team is saying it is oh, we don't have the budget to put you in here. And then they treated her completely like an outcast. I ain't gonna lie, I'd feel a certain type of way too. I'm why'd you ask me to be on here? You're supposed to be my friend and everything, but not fuck all the stuff with the business for a second. But let's talk about with just girl code, goddammit. Talk about with girl codes real quick. The fact that it's you ain't even solid enough to have my back friend wise. They're not even getting into the level of business. You asked me to be on to this tour, and then now all of a sudden it is you can't seem to find the budget for me to go ahead and get the proper dressing rooms and the food it is that I need, and I have to carry my own bags and stuff like that. What? And then you're getting the whole queen treatment? Come on. Come on. And I'll be damned if I'm treated that kind of way at that point. Right, exactly. That's so weird to me.
Chicken salad. Cleopatra after this was convinced that Ice didn't like her, and as a matter of fact, she hated her friend. After the embarrassment she faced behind the scenes, she decided to uncover the real side of Ice Spice. Now, this is definitely connected to the fall off or loss of relevancy of Ice Spice, if you will, because just a few months ago, one of her former friends, another one of her former friends, actually came out with a similar type of story. Her name is Baby Stormy.
Yes,
and personally,
her.
I don't know if I would consider her as very credible due to the nature of that particular expose. However, that aside, her reputation has definitely taken a hit. And this is related to something I spoke about, just a minute ago, which is her public persona. Because part of the reason why Ice Spice managed to be so successful is due to how she's appeared to the world. A young, beautiful, but very sweet woman, well-mannered, aside from when she's, shaking her ass, which is like never.
All the time.
Ice Spice has benefited from what we call the halo effect. A cognitive bias where the overall impression of a person
Zach.
influences how other people feel and think about a person's specific traits. So for Ice Spice, she has the, the visual package, which is, the assets, i.e. very nice body and good facial features and a nice smile. She simply looks better than 99% of the women on earth based on societal standards, of course.
Correct.
Because beauty is highly subjective, and depending on what culture you're in, your level of attractiveness will vary. Now, this is what they call the halo effect. It's considered the physical attractiveness stereotype in which what looks beautiful is seen as good. I mean, there's even studies on this. Attractive people in society are perceived to be smarter, funnier, and more likable than less attractive people.
Exactly.
From personal experience, I can tell you that some of the most demonic people I've met have been some of the most good-looking people on the outside.
Well,
I'm sure you can relate to that. Ice Spice falls under.
I will say this, and like if you watch Shira 7, the sprinkle lady, she kind of talks about this as well, where it's just like there is such a thing as pretty privilege. There is such a thing. It is just like, look, for us as women, all you got to do is go ahead and just like get up, get your hair all nice, done up, put your makeup on, put some right clothes on and everything, and just go out. Watch how these people treat you. I even done this. I have even done this on my own accord, where I'm just like, damn, like on a normal basis, but it is like, big t-shirts, like, and sweatpants and no makeup and whatnot. And like, this is like, all right, she's pretty, this is and this. But let me get into my fucking bag real quick. Now it's just like, oh wait, damn, who is that? That switches so fast. So there is some truth behind that. But I'm glad, like, the fact it is like this fake persona it is that Ice Spice is doing. I'm surprised it is that this whole debacle with Nikki is not even being mentioned within this part. Now, of course, it is like her and Nikki had a short exchange. It's not like it is that they was like, the really biggest of friends and stuff like that. It was more so like a business thing. But like Ice was talking about Nikki, about saying it is like, oh, Nikki want to be like me. Yeah, she's delusional. This and this. Like, shorty, this woman literally helped you to get to the status to where it is that you are. And then you sitting there, you talking shit about her. And it's like, the thing that I will say about with Nikki, and I've said this on multiple instances, Nikki does actually help female artists. But then there's a level of like, there's a fallout in some form of ways. But I'm not going to blame Nikki for this one. There's other situations to where it is, it's just like, all right, cool. But like, Ice, you kind of fucked up, gang. And if you was having negotiation issues with trying to sign underneath her label, stuff like that, I would have never pillow talked that to, a friend, and then you fall out with that friend and they go ahead and they expose you. You know what I'm saying? And then Nikki finds that out, and now, come on. That's not good. Speaking of that, Nikki helped you to get to the status to where you are, and she does not and she do not be like you. She is herself. She's trying to be like her. So, bro, Ice really sat there and said like, oh, Nikki's trying to be like me and whatnot. Like, woman, what?
This category perfectly, and that's why this recent story involving her friend coming out like this is just so damaging to her career. To be fair, her looking good is one of the only things that propelled her to this level. Let's just keep it real, right? This is like the nail in the coffin effect, where one needle is moving the mountain in a whole nother direction. All those good qualities people automatically projected onto her are slowly dissipating in the minds of the public. Ice Spice's entire image was built on not only sexuality, but being what women call a girl's girl. Now, what exactly is that to all the men who don't know what the hell that is? Because I just found out what it is. This is a term that's used to describe a woman who celebrates her fellow women, doesn't let jealousy get in the way of doing so, and she's honest and encouraging to her fellow women as well. Ice Spice has now lost that entire aspect of her brand due to this controversy. Also, Ice Spice just doesn't have the same type of freshness to her name anymore. People feel like they've experienced all that they can from her. Her music has clearly taken a back seat as far as the conversations in relation to her name, especially with this particular story right here. And also, to be fair, she hasn't done herself a favor by putting sex at the forefront 24/7. Unfortunately, you know, the majority of female rappers do that, but the ones that end up sticking are the talented ones, okay? The ones who show the world that they have more to offer than just their body. I'm talking about Snow the Product. I'm talking about Bia. I'm talking about Doechii.
I wouldn't put Bia in here. I wouldn't put Bia in this list, damn it. I would not put Bia in this list, especially after this beefing it is that she tried to do with Cardi. Baby, you tried to diss this woman, and this woman was about to get your ass sued.
I'm talking about Flo Milli. These are women who put their creativity at the forefront of everything they do. Now, as for Ice Spice, her body is more popular than her music. And it's always been like that. Whether it's the millions of young girls following her because they want to be like her, or whether it's the thirsty basement-dwelling teenage boys who get turned on when they see her fat ass. Her name is fueled by her willingness to lean on sex, and once the shape she got introduced to the game with starts to change, since she lost a bunch of weight and people have accused her of using Ozempic for her weight loss journey. Now that she's looking so different, what are they actually supporting? I mean, people were already not attached to her music, and leaning too much on your looks, whether you're a man or a woman in any facet of life, is something that's very fleeting. As human beings, we can't run away from the inevitable process of aging, and that's why you gotta make sure people fall in love with who you are on an intrinsic level and not what you are. Leaning on the physical stuff gots to go, okay? Finito. Unfortunately for Ice Spice, since a big part of her popularity was fed by her good looks, that is her gimmick, and she has to maintain it, or else she'll fade away. To each in his own, but one thing's for sure, people have lost interest in Ice Spice. Do I think she's fallen off? Well, she's clearly not as hot as she used to be. She's of course very young and has built an extremely lucrative brand for herself, so even if the music doesn't pan out the way she wants it to, I'm sure she'll be able to monetize her name by working with big brands and cashing in on the sponsorship money. And this is an aspect of the music industry people seem to miss, okay? And this is very relevant to Ice Spice. A lot of these so-called artists that are popping up now are nothing but glorified social media influencers who happen to know how to sing into a microphone or rap into a microphone. The goal for the music industry wasn't for Ice Spice's career to have longevity. The goal was to build her brand up to a level where it's lucrative enough, and in that situation, she won't be dependent on her album selling for her existence to make sense. Make sense. But that's why Ice Spice is losing relevancy. I'm sure she still has a couple solid years in the mainstream world of music left. However, the numbers prove that she's on a downward trajectory. Anyway, you made it this far, which means I'm sure you enjoyed the video, so do me a favor, or actually do yourself a favor by liking the video so the algorithm knows that you enjoyed this video and you can get more of these videos in your recommended section. I appreciate you guys for watching. My name is Blackie Speaks. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe. And yeah, I'm curious what you think about this topic. Why Ice Spice lost relevancy? Do you think the time is up for Mrs. Ice Spice, or do you think she still has a lot of time left in the industry? I'm curious to hear what you have to say, okay? Appreciate you guys for watching, okay? Stay safe. Have a good day. Have a good night wherever you're at, okay? Have a good day. Take care of yourself, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Jeez.
Peace.
You know? All right. He said, and I'm going to say this again. Did she forget the story of Nicki Minaj and even why she had that survivalist mindset? That hell of a story to why she got the BBL. Because I said that she's a barb, but they don't claim you. Next. Man, listen, there was some barbs. It is, even when they did the collab, that was just like, there's something about her that she ain't gonna be here for too long. I seen stuff like that. I seen the levels of just like, eventually they're gonna go ahead and say something. They're gonna say something. There was some barbs that was not feeling her from the moment she did that collab with Nicki. And here we are. Here we are now. There's some people just like, I done told y'all. But Blackie Speaks, shout outs to you, gang. Thank you so much for the video. Shout outs to y'all in the chat. And shout outs to you at home. I'll catch y'all in the next video.